My name is Adebayo Jacobs Amo. A lot of people call me Teapot, which is also my name. I'm the CEO and founder of My Libri Books. My Libri Books is a digital distributor of books in Africa for a lot of students, people who love to read, African literatures, books that are no longer in print from old publishers that have been out of business and stuff. So we have all those kind of books and we keep them and we distribute them across the African continent, predominantly Nigeria. I didn't quite transition from software engineering. I am still a software engineer. But finding my Libri books is something that I went through as a child growing up in Nigeria. I'm one of 7 kids, so my parents had to put all of us through school. And then I have to wait for the textbooks that my elder siblings are using before I could get hold of them. And by the time I do get some of them, eventually pages and pages will be lost. And then the cost of the textbooks is very exorbitant. We couldn't really afford to buy a lot of them. And I realized a lot of people are still going through that same problem now, especially where people don't have a lot of money to go around the kids. And I spoke to a lot of people. We did the research before we started, and about 96% of the people we researched were going through that problem or have experienced that problem themselves. So we thought if we can create a platform where all of these books will be available relatively very cheap for people, would that really solve the problem? So we had a go at it. And yeah, a lot of people have reached out to us that they really like the idea of having to spend quite little on textbooks alongside the other cost of sending their kids to school. So that was why I founded it. I didn't quite transition. I'm still a software engineer. I'm still building stuff. Once we realized what the problem is and we spoke to a lot of people and they tell us what the solution could be, my experience as a software engineer came into fore because I could easily sit down, design something and speak to some friends of mine to say, I want to build XYZ. And so it was quite easy for us to build because I work with a team of developers, myself being a software engineer. So it took us relatively short time to do. The biggest challenge we faced was the publishers from Africa were not entirely open to working with giving their digital books out or selling digital rights to their books. We have publishers from the Western world, large publishers working with us, but to convince the publishers in Africa, Nigeria especially, is very difficult. So we ended up with a library with no books. Eventually, I kept speaking to them, and eventually we sat down with them and we went through it, and they saw it, and they realized that, okay, maybe this might work. And then they gave us hundreds of books. And then the feedback from the users to them directly, not even us now, to them, that I saw your book on this platform, can you add this book? So instead of us chasing them for more books, they're the one coming to us with, oh, can you try this catalog as well? We have these books on this catalog. So that was the biggest challenge we had because for a limited period of time, we have a full library with no books in it. And fortunately, they came around to working with us, and that's now history. I won't really call myself an entrepreneur. I'm just a solution provider for a problem, a specific problem. But I'm a software engineer in that I look after the product itself. When I speak to people and they tell me what they want, and we look at how we can build the solution out on the product itself. So I do that. In terms of running the business, selling and digital sales and chasing after contract, and I don't do any of that. I have a team of people in Nigeria that do all of that. So I just get reports from them, what they're doing, how they're doing, if there's anything I can help with, that's it. So with our strategy, we have a subscription method. A lot of people can't access the market in the Western world. So most of the time they buy books from here. So most of those books that they needed from here, we have. So instead of them buying the books, they can subscribe to our service and they have access to the book. That's one. Secondly, we have student-focused plans where a lot of lecturers write handouts, educational resources. It's against the law in Nigeria for lecturers to sell handouts, but those resources are still good for the students. So we get the lecturers to publish their books on our platform. So instead of the lecturer selling to the student, which is against the law, they just put the book on our platform. So we pay the lecturers, the student, but the student will have to subscribe to our, our service. And the one thing we're currently doing is a project with one of the states, I won't mention names, where we're, kitting out their library, putting desktop and laptop and tablet in their library, putting our software on there and our services will be there, and the whole school would subscribe their student to our service. So that's how we've been growing. We started from zero. We have tens of thousands of subscribers now, and we're still growing. A lot of our suppliers are actually Western world publishers, and access to African literature is one thing that we provide for them. We've had a book club in the UK that are subscribing to our services because they want to give their members access to African literature, especially books that are not from well-known authors. If you look at the publishing sector of African continent, not a lot of our authors are quite known. You can count maybe about 20, 50 people in a continent of 1 point something billion people. But we write books. Initially, people think we don't read. We do read. We write books. So access to those kind of books is from platform like ours, where we have them. We work with the publishers and the authors directly themselves to make the books available. And we have subscriptions from here in the UK and America and Canada, actually. People who love reading African literature. So with a platform like ours, they would have access to them. So I co-founded the Test Chat. Is a professional community for software engineers and testers. How it helped me with my team is that once I identify a skill gap, I know exactly what to tell them to do. I encourage my team to upskill all the time. I encourage them to read up, do courses, learn new things. We're not I wouldn't say we're a traditional team in that we work remotely, we do stuff um, like no other people would do it. And because I'm a software engineer, almost all of my entire development team, I know them firsthand. I've worked with them in the past as well. And then outside of that, when some of my team members want to get into things like business analysis, for example, or any other skills that we don't currently use, I don't stop them. I mentor them, I give them direction, I point them to where to go and learn those things. Because at the end of the day, they have those skills and they work with me, I will be the first beneficiary of it. So mentoring help if someone wants to be a software engineer, that's quite easy because that's what I do. But in other area of IT, I know where to point them to, who to lead them to get the training that they would need to make progress on themselves. What you know how to do it. What you don't know how to do, look for it. If you have to pay for it, pay for it. You know, founders, black founders, especially in the UK, a lot of the problems we tend to solve most of the time are domiciled outside of the UK. And the way I went about it was I went through the problem myself. I was a victim of it. A lot of people were still victims of it. Before we launched my Libri books in 2020, the 10 years before that, I've spent about 50 million naira on buying textbooks for nephews, nieces, friends of kids of friends and stuff like that. I can't continue to spend that money because it's just not sustainable. Now, if you multiply that story, it's common. People here will tell you, I need to send money home, I have to buy XYZ for so. So for us black founders in the UK, once we leverage on the problem, once we identify the problem we want to solve, whatever skills we have as persons, we use it. Like my initial development was done by myself. My project design and the architecture of it and the framework of it is done by myself. Till date, the framework that we use in testing it was built by me. I still test it myself. Because I have those skill set. But every other skills that I don't have, I buy them, like digital marketer, project management, front end developer, Google Cloud, and all of those things. So as we grow, I keep on seeding stuff. But at the beginning, I was pretty much doing everything I could do myself before I have to spend money, because as a startup founder, money is quite it's very tight. So you have to manage your budget to make sure it goes as fast as possible. So with regards to funding, and this might sound very funny, and a lot of people would quite know this anyway. I never thought about it at the beginning. Um, my focus was on solving the problem that I had, and a lot of people have now. But thinking about it, we're growing at such a pace that the money we have is not catching up to what we need to do, what we are being asked to do, what we want to do. So my approach is solve the problem first. There's this saying that if you solve a problem and a lot of people are benefiting from your solution, the money will come, which is true. But I also believed in that. But now I think that software founders also need to go find funding based on the result they have achieved. A win is a win, no matter how minute. But for me personally, I didn't really think about it until recently. We just wrote our first pitch deck, to be honest with you. And that was after 4 years of running. I didn't think about it. I never thought that I need to put that first. What we want to do, first of all, is solve the problem, which we have done. And we're getting to a point now where we have things that we're planning to do that we cannot self-fund ourselves. For example, I mentioned a project we're doing with a university in Nigeria. The project is going to cost us almost like £500,000. That's not something we can fund ourselves. So, and the story repeats itself. If you speak to several startup founders, they'll tell you exactly the same thing. But funding is attractive. I would say is the soul of everything we're doing. But more bigger than the funding is the solution to the problem itself. We have solved the problem we had. A lot of people are benefiting from it. How we scale that up is where we are now. I am a little bit lucky. I didn't set out to found this business. I had a little bit of money put aside to do entirely something else. And then I founded this. So when we started, I wrote a check of $300,000 for my team, and we ran with that. Everything we did was in-house. We paid for everything, no free anything at all. We were running with that. But we are in a climate where it costs a lot of money to run businesses. You have to, government legislation changes like that. Data for the guys. So all of these things. But the one thing I know is, in terms of me as a person, it's reduced me to a minimalist, in that my needs are very, very minimal. I don't go out to spend a lot of money on myself. As a matter of fact, for about 5 years, I don't have a car here in the UK. I give my car away because more than once I have to take a team of people from Nigeria to events outside of Nigeria. We were in Jitex 2 years ago. All of those money came from my pocket. And I need to be able to define what is really important. Is this an experiment I want to do for a period of time? Or is this a solution I want to keep there forever? So people coming would not have the problem we had that some people are still having now. And so it's not convenient, but nothing is ever convenient. It's not comfortable as well, in that I have to choose between, do we do X, Y, Z, or do I go and buy a brand new car or something like that. But in terms of funding, it helps that before you go into it, have a little bit of money, no matter how small, because at the beginning, you spend like every day. You need to buy something. You have to buy license for this, you have to buy license for that, you need to pay for that subscription, you need to buy that software. So at the beginning, the things you buy are like, just keep coming relentlessly at you. But as time goes on and you start settling down, then you can begin to pick where you spend your money on so that it goes fast. So bootstrapping it has been my story all along, but Will I do it again? Maybe yes. But obviously, I won't do it the way I've done it before because I will be starting from someone who has done it before, kind of privilege. It was very difficult in that sometimes, you just go, I have so limited amount of money and we have so much to do. So where do we go from here? And I found that with bootstrapping, it helps to speak to people in my shoes as well. I have a lot of colleagues, a lot of founders in my corner in the same network as me that are bootstrapping. So conversations there and there, how do you manage to do X, Y, Z? How are you doing this? So when we meet each other, which we don't do a lot in this country, but in Nigeria, for example, all of the founders, when we sit down, we're having a conversation and people that are bootstrapping, you don't know what you might say that might help the other person because a lot of us are bootstrapping anyway. The people who raise money are known. The news we carry it's like a drop in the ocean because there are thousands of people that have not raised a penny from that. So it helps that we talk to each other as well. So, and some other times I have some licenses that I can share. I have enterprise licenses that I can share. So I do share. I have some other things I can give to some people that, okay, you can use this, but it's difficult if you go at it alone. Let's just put it that way. But I was more lucky because I have a little bit of money. I have friends and family who believed in the dream as well. So in the UK, we have the infrastructure is there. Everything we want to do, we have the infrastructure to back it up. I don't need to have to worry about electricity and stuff. One thing I'm trying to do is to bring a lot of our tech guys to the UK on visit a week, work with us, work with my team for a week, and then we go across the UK, not just England, Wales, Scotland, everywhere, so they can see. Because I do tell them the only challenge they have is themselves. Those guys are pulling out miracles. They don't have electricity and they are building stuff. We are kind of the privileged kids. We have electricity. I don't have to worry about a lot of things. They have to worry. So in terms of how we can touch and pull each other and collaborate between one another, if we give them access to the environment we work in, for example, and they come here and they work with us for a week or two, there are so many things they could learn from us. Like we go there and I could see what they struggle with and then learn from that because my entire team is there. So that way is something that I'm still trying to make happen. It's something that a lot of people want to see happen, but at some point, and you guys will be invited to come and partake in it. But it's something that we're planning to see how we can make it happen. If I can drag a team of developers for a startup in Nigeria or 5 startups in Nigeria to come to the UK, spend 2 weeks with us. Let's go work together. See how we work here. See, they don't have to struggle with a lot of things to struggle with. And maybe the way they approach their work will be different. So that way we can really touch each other and help each other out on so many things, because some of the things they might perceive as problems, we won't necessarily see them as problems. And some of the things that they will want us to help them to do, we might not even begin to imagine it because we are not in that situation. We won't know. And that do come across when we are defining requirements sometimes. When I'm speaking to them and they say, I want to do X, Y, Z, I say, really? Why? Because their reality is different from mine. So what they are saying to me feels like, why would I even be a situation in the first place? Whereas it is. When I go there, I experience it. And I go, oh, okay, now I get your point. So that way, if we open each other up to how the environment, the know-how, the technical possibility we have in different continents, and then it will give them the speed and the knowledge they need to do a lot of things that they might struggle with, because the only reality they have is theirs. But if they see it from a different angle, they might pick up a thing or two, which is the advantage we have because we are here. And then when we go there, we have the advantage of knowing, okay, it could be better because I have seen better. But most of them over there don't have the opportunity. So that's something we can do. And that's what we're planning to do. In the Western world, I don't want to mention names. We have a lot of distributors of digital books, big ones, very massive ones. And we are just tiny little companies starting from one corner of African continent. When we started out, we were like, no one knows anything about us. We were not even sure we'll survive a year. Fortunately, I was talking about us everywhere. I speak to a lot of people. I met a publisher here, and after about 5 minutes of speaking to them, they gave us their entire catalog and said, pick whatever books you want. A week after that, another publisher from New Jersey, America, did exactly the same thing to me. And the list goes on and on. Now, if I had given up, because as at the time we launched our product, I was using Kindle and Apple Books because I read a lot. Now I don't use any of those products. I use my Libri books because all of the books I read, all of the books I want to read, we have them. Because we reach out to the publishers, we pay them. It's not free. It's not like we're just getting the books for free. We're actually paying for the right to have the books on our platform. And these are books that a lot of our people want to read. They are behind a paywall in Africa. They can't buy stuff from Kindle or Amazon. So unless you buy stuff from here and take it home to them, they can't really access that market. But now with us, they do have it. So as an entrepreneur solving a problem, which primarily is not even a Western world problem, we have 2 layers of determination to go. Because when you're speaking to people here, they don't see the problem. So you need to be convincing. Like, okay, this problem actually exists. I was a victim of it. A lot of people are still going through it. That's one. Secondly, where you're going, there's no infrastructure to support what you're trying to do. The people that may want to support you here may not understand why there's no infrastructure as well. So you need to be double determined. You need to really go for it. Like, nothing is going to stop me because at the end of the day, the problem exists now, but tomorrow it will be gone. And now, for example, a lot of people watch Netflix. I've never had anyone say to me there's no infrastructure to support people watching Netflix in Africa. Everybody watch Netflix. The moment you start talking about digital books, oh, people can't afford iPad, but they watch Netflix. Oh, people can't afford phone, but they watch Netflix. Why are we not complaining about that? So when I look at it, it's a matter of making people realize that they don't want your service, they actually need your service. For example, when we were speaking to university students and they were like, oh, why do I need to subscribe to you? Blah, blah. I said, listen, by the end of the session, I would have all the course material you need to study for the year on the platform. Now tell me, do you want the platform or do you need the platform? So the message needs to go out there. So the determination, and because I was a victim of it, maybe that's why I'm very passionate about it. So we need to be passionate about it. Because most of the people we will talk to about the startup where the problem we're trying to solve may not experience that problem. So as a Black founder, we have a unique experience to sell. One of the key things that drove me seriously into this was I was looking for a particular book from a publisher. I'll make this snappier. It's Alawiye JF Odunjo. I was looking for the whole Boba, this and that. I couldn't find the full catalog. No one has it. I read those books in primary school. No one has it. I wanted to show my goddaughter. I wanted to show the kids. I couldn't find it anywhere. Guess where I found it? A guy in the US had the entire collection of JF Odunjo books. Everything. And he didn't even read them. He wasn't a student that read those books in primary school or anything. And I reached out to him. And he said to me, oh, he can lend the books to me, the entire catalog to me for $72,000 a year. That is my history. That is me growing up. Why do you have it and I don't? If we don't do something, kids today, adults tomorrow will be in exactly the same position as we are today because we are not keeping our own history. And we can't force people who are keeping the history for us and then trying to sell our own history back to us. And that's just one example. So those things, when you know the story, when you've been affected by it, and you take it on, The passion has to be there, the determination has to be there. And then when you talk to people about it, they can actually see it through you. And that brings support in. It might not necessarily be funding, but it brings support in. Like the publisher, the first big publisher that agreed to give us their book were UK based. They were linked to universities here in the UK, as I'm still working with them. They still want to do work with us. They're still expanding their catalog with us. We're still doing a lot of stuff. They are UK based. They are one of the big publishers in the UK. And we have the books. We're getting school books from them now, university courses books, engineering books, medical law books, and all of those things from a UK publisher. That was because when I was speaking to their CEO, one, I was desperate because I have an empty library. I need to put books in there before I start selling. And I need to start selling so I can start getting some of this cost off my pocket. So I was really desperate. And I explained it to him. And he looked at me and said, wow, I didn't know you guys don't have that. But now you've started it. So now let's start. And he gave me the catalog. So as a black startup founder, your story, I want to say, should be personal. Because to me, this is personal. I went through the problem. And secondly, you need to be determined. Not a lot of people you meet would understand what you're saying. Not a lot of our kids here wouldn't understand not having textbooks, excuse me. They have textbooks, they have choices. We didn't growing up. So it's personal. I know. I don't want the kids now to go through that. I definitely don't want kids tomorrow going through that in Nigeria. I don't want people to choose between which child will go to school in their family because they can't afford to buy them textbooks. And this is one way to help. So that would be my advice for black startup founders in the UK. We are in a unique position in that some of the problems we are solving may not be domiciled here, but we have multiple different experiences that we can rely on. And then we need to speak about these things so people are aware, because most people are not aware. And then from there, I don't like saying trust me, but believe me, it becomes easier.
My first thoughts working at BlackRock was how diverse it was, diverse in the way people thought and diversity in where people were from. I thought it was a place where people were comfortable in being themselves, and because they could bring their best selves, they brought a lot of knowledge with them. So it just felt like a place where I could learn a lot from everyone.